I spend my life researching and teaching people how to live a powerful life. I am a believer. I stand for the transformation of humanity. I have found my purpose. My name is Gabrielle McGee, and I am the Rebellious Therapist. So welcome to the Rebellious Therapist podcast. And today's subject is a very interesting one. It's one we all do, but we don't. First of all, it's one that we don't really admit we're doing, or we don't want to do, but we still do. And the topic today is about gossip. Why do we gossip? So, Ciara, this is an interesting one for us because we're both Irish and we're both had probably been we've probably done it, but we also have been at the other end of being gossiped about. So first of all, I want to welcome you today again.
Hello.
How's things in America? How is the weather?
Great.
How's
Amazing. Spring has sprung, as
Spring.
they say. So it's very pretty and nice now.
cool? So life is good?
Life is great.
Yeah, life is great. Cool. So this is an interesting one where we did, as we sort of decided that let's cover the sort of subject of gossip and the impact and why people do gossip and what's behind the sort of the process of that and the pluses and the minuses of using gossip. So so welcome. So anything you want to start off saying about gossip, or
Well, will I start off with the little bit of sciencey research stuff that I came up with that I heard, and then we can go to our own kind of thing about it. So when I was researching gossip, it says that research suggests that humans are wired to seek out information about others, which can help us navigate complex social environments and make decisions about who to trust and who to avoid. And then it also says that engaging in gossip releases dopamine, which we all know is the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. And I thought that was really interesting. And we can speak to this a little bit more, but the fact that it releases a pleasure chemical, even though it goes back to, I suppose, things we engage in to get that hit, like alcohol, drugs, all that kind of stuff. And then that leads to us wanting to repeat that behavior because we get a hit of dopamine. And so that can be where maybe the spiral of gossip takes. So I just thought those were two really interesting science facts about it. And now we can move from there. Maybe if you want to speak to any of that for a little bit.
Yeah. So just going back to, it's at the point where it's not that the actual gossip itself, because I think after the gossip's been done, I don't think that's when it had happened. I think it's pre.
Yeah, it's engaging in gossip is when they say. So I guess it's like
it's that pre conversation where it's exciting, it's like interesting, it's got all your sort of senses is on red alert to figure out something that you didn't know and might, I don't know. It's like, I think it's the opposite. By the time the conversation's over, it's the opposite effect.
Yeah.
Right? Because
you're
not going to be feeling good about yourself if you're feeling, once I talk badly about someone, I don't walk away there feeling amazing.
Yeah.
I'm feeling shit by the time I finish that conversation. And it's always like a feeling toxic.
Yeah, like dirty.
Dirty, it's toxic, it's not nice. It's a form of actually disrespecting yourself.
Yeah. So while you're saying that now, what is gossip in your opinion?
Yeah, so to me, gossip is not a conversation. Gossip is with the intent to smear, damage someone's reputation. And also, what happens with people who gossip is they have a lack of power. So it gives them some power to give the information. It's like an ego boost, right? Oh, I know something you don't know. Now I got all the power. And I'm going to give you something, of information that I'm important because I already know this. So it's very ego based as well. And a lot of gossip comes from revenge or anger or upset or, trying to get people on your side, especially girls, right? Girls have a way of gossiping that's different to men.
Mhm.
So girls gossip in a way that they don't want to confront or they don't want to deal with the certain situations. So what do? They hang around and they gossip about the person behind their back with their mates or the people they meet, or it's all that sort of underlying, underground, underhanded conversations that goes on behind people's back. When the person that conversation is about cannot defend themselves. And it's said so often it becomes the truth, that's why it's so bloody dangerous. So then the outlook that people have, they buy into it, which is another part of what I think is really interesting about gossip. Because the minute you listen, the minute you cock your ear to hear the conversation with someone, it's derogatory. And you start believing that, you are a big part of the gossip.
Yeah.
You have a very active part in that gossip, even though you might not agree with the person.
Yeah.
And then, there's many times, Ciara, where we've been in conversations or we know people through our lifetime and they talk wrong and badly about people all the time and slag people off, and it's not nice. But we're listening in them conversations. And we're heavily involved at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And we all do it. Like it's a human thing. And I mean, years ago, they did a research and it was all about, tribal gossip, right? But it was a way the community used to connect together through gossip. It used to have a function. And, it's all about, and also about delivering information, but at a point where there's a fine line where it gets to be, as I said, it gets to a point where you're actually disrespecting people.
Yeah. So like the research was saying, we are naturally hardwired to seek out information about people. So let's just give a random example that just came to my head. A new family moves into our neighborhood, me and you.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct.
And I come over, knock on your door.
Am I living in Montauk now?
Yeah. I'm like, a new family moved in.
Yeah.
Right. And there's to a certain extent, that's not gossiping, right?
Yeah, but I'm already wanting to hear what's the gossip, right? I'm already set up. Okay.
Yeah. So now if I add to that and I'm like, I heard in their last neighborhood they were kicked out because of X, Y, and Z. And so then you take that on and then you go to
I take that on as just the truth. Right?
Yeah.
So now that truth from you becomes another version of what I explain to the next person.
Yeah.
And not even that, but the actual detail and everything changes as it goes along. And it takes it actually grows. Most of the time it's growing bigger and bigger and more nastier. So people
go ahead. Like you said, like it's so I'll relay that information to you, then you'll take it, add your opinion onto it and relay it again. Like gossip is said with like an opinion. So then we start to like form this, is this what they mean by, then we start to feel this sense of, connection, because we're going against this new family who got kicked out of their like, and it's based in no reality, essentially.
Exactly. It's gossip, right?
Yeah.
We don't know what the reality is. We don't even know if it's the truth. But we're so willing to pass on the information to everyone. So the next person comes in, lives next door to me. So I warn them. And it goes on crazy. And it's like, oh my God. The version, what I just thought about there now, it depends on my mood on the day as well. If I'm feeling pissed off or I feel whatever, like resentful and then in myself, and somebody's given me a piece of information that I can sort of get into it, then it's going to be a lot bigger and a lot more disrespectful. If I was in a happy mood, I probably wouldn't even bother passing on the information. So you can see how underhanded and how people act out with it.
And so, like, in a perfect world, should I be just knocking on their door and being like, hello, I heard you got kicked out of your last neighborhood. Tell me about it.
Let's have a coffee and talk about this. Yes, in the perfect world, it probably would be a good conversation to have with them. If that was, why would it be interesting to you? That's the one. Why am I so interested in these people who've just moved into the neighborhood, right? Now, it could be something of concern for me. Then it depends where my approach to that then after, right? Am I going to actually maybe figure some stuff out here? Example, if I have dogs, right? And if someone who is disrespecting dogs, I might want to figure stuff out. How real is this and how unreal is this? So it also it lies back inside of how important that is for me, that information, and how that will impact me.
That's like, what the fuck has it got to do with you, really? Honestly.
Well, but if it's going to impact my dog, then I might want to inquire about it without gossiping about it. That's a different matter.
Yes, totally.
Because gossip is very defined, really. Gossip is about the intention to, the intent to damage somebody's character.
Mm-hmm.
And say like two people fall out, example. And that person, one of the people, the person that's gossiping needs revenge. That's that's a very underlying way of getting revenge. Rather than being confronting the person and getting that stuff all sort of put on the table and figured out whether they want to sort it out or not. Where they're just heading off heading off down the village and talking all the nasty stuff about whoever it is that they want to smear and disrespect.
Mm-hmm.
So it has its uses for people, but not in a very positive way. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's what I see. It's not a very positive process to be involved in or take part in.
Yeah, it's interesting because when we did the masterclass with you and this is the time we first spoke about gossiping. And I obviously have reflected on, where and when and how I've gossiped in the past and in the present tense, obviously. And it's like you said, like if I have so in my group, my friend group, we call it news. Any news? Like, do you have any news? Because today I really need some.
But what's happening at that point?
I want to be taken outside of myself to hear about somebody else.
Right, because we want to be distracted. Something's gone on so intense. Remember I said she's a real distraction. And it's real information because there's something going on you're really uncomfortable with or you want to cover up. Right?
Yeah.
So we automatically say, what's the crack? What's the news? What's the gossip?
What's going on? Obviously, I've moved away now from, my neighborhood in the city, and I'm always keeping my nose halfway in the door to see what the news is. Now that could be from there's certain aspects of the city that I'll want to know the news in a gossipy way, but then also my friends' actual lives. But I know when I have news, I feel this grandiose. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot wait to tell them this news. And I take on this sense of superiority. And I'm like, it gives me power. And so I send in a message, I have news. And we always use the little news emoji.
Wow. Oh, this is so funny.
So then, they'll reply with ears and noses. This is how we communicate news, the ears and nose emoji.
Wow.
So then is it worthy of a voice note? Is it worthy of just a text? We have to go through all these levels of news.
Do you know what? Yeah, I'm learning so much about you, about you today. Oh,
Now, I want to say in more recent times, I definitely have been more aware of it, obviously, since the masterclass. So it mostly is news about myself or maybe something that happened to me or something like that. But there will be the odd time where it's about somebody else or something else.
yeah.
And yeah, it's just that I was just very aware of that feeling that it gave me, that I was just like bursting, that I needed, that I had it and that they didn't have it. And
Yeah, of course.
it was interesting to understand what that actually meant. And that's actually me having a false sense of power
Completely, right?
over what, you know?
Well, over something, right? It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. That's how pointless it is.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. I
Mhm.
don't, because I don't. I think I have the privilege. Here's my, and I am always very grateful for the work I do, and my profession, right? That I'm totally disciplined inside of not getting involved with gossip.
Mm.
People try, like people try to sort of give me the gossip or whatever, but because I got to be disciplined. But it's actually the benefits for me is huge, right?
Yeah.
Because it gives me a discipline and a practice that I don't I don't have the tolerance to listen to that stuff anymore.
Mm.
Because if I do sort of get caught up in that, I just won't give my energy to it. You know, I won't give myself to that. Why? Because I know the consequences and I see the consequences and I work with the consequences. And people do it to me. It's been done to me through the last few years where I know I became, something that I'm not. But, the gossip just kept on going and going and going. But that's just how society and people communicate.
Mm.
And there's nothing you can, there's nothing you can do, only take care of yourself in it.
Yeah.
And, I took a very conscious decision not to respond. Because what happens when you start responding is you start having to defend yourself and then you be guilty of something, right?
Yeah.
And the best, if you can, and it takes a lot of actually discipline and a lot of self management to not respond. It's easy for me to respond. I don't have a problem responding. I don't have a problem dealing with it, right? But you're feeding it. And you're
So is
feeding the not.
silence the best thing?
Well, just like to me, silent is not, but without the suffering, but
Mm.
right. And when I saw it and I heard it all going on, what I did was I talked to people that I felt safe around about how I felt about it and how hurt I felt and betrayed and all of that. Work through all the stuff, and that gives me that gives you the sort of space to not have to get into the nastiness of it or not not feel responsible to go, like, because my given will be, I'm going to get them right. That's the first.
Mm.
No, it'll piss me off, right? So the first thing I want to do is revenge. I won't curl, I won't sort of fall into the corner and feel like a victim. I want to say, right, okay, let's go, let's do it.
Yeah.
So even that, it's a really interesting, watching your response to gossip is an interesting one as well. Having to pull it back and having to, the it's humanly impossible not to have a response if you hear something really nasty about you and it's not true. And people are making up stories because behind that they're not being responsible for themselves and whatever it looks like that they're trying to convince people. So you're already hardwired to respond and to survive, and you'll feel attacked. So guess what happens? Your nervous system's just going to rise. Boom. Now, for me, my given will be to fight back.
Yeah.
For other people, they'll feel like a victim and feel like it actually can depress people.
Mm.
So the actual aftermath and the thing, the impact, and especially on social media these days, right? There's a lot of people watching, people having a great life or up there making their life work and feeling resentful. So what they want to do is they want to pull it down. They want to tear it off. Well, how do they do that? They start gossiping. So there's a lot, it's a lot of nasty, sort of disrespectful stuff that people have a dissatisfied life really indulge in. And unfortunately, it keeps the spiral going. Spirals even worse and worse. And it distracts them from really being responsible for where they're coming from, what is triggered for them, and then working that stuff through with them and themselves internally. What people think is much easier just to go out and, trash somebody in front of them, and it's not. It actually doesn't work. I know there's been moments where, in that sort of group where you've probably sent in information, gossiped or whatever, as you say, the news, right?
Mm.
Did that impact your life in a positive way? And when we think about it, Ciara, right? It doesn't. But guess what? The problem is, if I'm doing it to you, then I'm doing it whoever's in front of me that I'm gossiping with, they now do not trust me.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching people who I am in the world. I'm teaching people what to expect from me.
Yeah.
And I'm teaching people what's coming next to them.
Mm-hmm.
But people are always watching. And what was really interesting when I went to New York, that this was one thing that really shocked me when I was in New York. And I work with a lot of people. Like I have clients in New York, as you know. But there's a community in New York that are really terrified of the gossip. There seems to be a lot of that bred with the Irish community in New York. And what I find that people were really like nervous, scared, and protecting themselves even more than we would do in Ireland, and we do a lot of it here.
Yeah.
Which I didn't expect it there, because when I lived in London for 20 years, London is a different culture and the Irish community, and it's not as tight. Which was some amazing things about the Irish community in America as well. How they got each other's back. But I thought there's still an aftermath in that community. I thought was quite unfortunate that they had to protect themselves to a level where, there seems to be quite a damaging amount of. And it's not just, of course, it's not just New York, but it surprised me that New York, with the size of New York, that this stuff was like so evident in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, what you want to say about that, or, because you got a lot more experience than I do about, living away from home and community. And it's not just the Irish community, obviously, every community have this going on. It's a human factor in life that's a negative, right?
Yeah.
But it's just, we're talking about our community, what we're used to, what we know and what we've grown up with, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a very interesting subject, and it's something when you give up, my God, see the energy you have. People taking vitamins and stuff like that. Stop gossiping, right? That's your best vitamin, because that gives you another way of, living in something positive. Because they're meditating, they're doing all this stuff, and then 5 minutes later, they're in a really negative, toxic conversation and energy.
Yeah. So are you saying you've never gossiped before in your life?
I gossip still, right?
So then from a therapist perspective, how do you know when you are, when you've crossed the line in terms of how do you reel yourself back in, essentially? Because we can go unconscious as people who aren't fully trained.
So the therapist is something different to the human, right?
Oh, yeah.
So me as a human being, right? If somebody winds me up, I want to. Do you understand? I'm a human being. I have, just because you have the term therapist, right? That makes no difference. At the end of the day, I am going to have that human response, right?
Yeah.
And there's times where I want to bitch about something, right? So I will ring someone up and I say, I need 10 minutes to bitch about this situation or whatever. And it's over, right?
So
But
what's the difference between bitching and gossiping then?
it's the same thing.
Okay.
Same thing, but it's what it can it's I've declared that I am bitching. I'm declared that I'm gossiping.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I've declared I will only want to spend 10 minutes on this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not giving them news. I'm getting responsible for my response is for something that I probably heard somebody said about me, felt about me, or whatever it is, right? It'll be something personal that's internalized,
Gotcha.
right? So then what I do with that, rather than try to, meditate on top of it, no, you got to get those feelings to really burn out.
Yeah.
So you get a committed listener. They know you're just going to bitch for 10 minutes and you're going to get to the right end and you're going to get responsible for your life again and move on. And it's not for them to repeat, or it's not a piece of gossip.
Gotcha.
So it's very organized.
Yeah. It's intentional in the right way, as you say. It depends on the intention behind it. Yeah.
It's also got boundaries. But I don't really, if somebody gives me information about some person somewhere, that doesn't interest me to pass that information on.
Yeah. And then what about, because I'm thinking that then, so that's like, say, community driven, that's friends driven. And what about when it comes into your family? Like, because there's a lot of gossip that goes on within families.
Yeah, I don't talk about it. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on in my family's life. None.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Zero. Unless somebody wants to tell me.
And is that a choice?
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, yes. I never ring my family to hear unless someone wants to tell me something, but it doesn't go any further. Because I know that's something they've got to get off their chest, right?
Yeah.
Right? Because families are always complaining in the back of something they're upset about each other.
Yeah.
So I'm just listening to somebody's upset. I'm not listening to that's me controlling where I hear it from.
Yeah.
But I never, you can check this one out, and I'm saying this publicly. They do not have any conversation. They do not have any phone calls from me to hear the gossip. Oh my God, no.
Because then it depends. It becomes a responsibility if you make it, though, I suppose.
It's a responsibility not to call them. It's my responsibility not to get involved in that.
Yeah. And then do you think that that's people's form of connection though as well, is like through that kind of gossip and talk?
You have to check out, you have to then figure out what is the connection. How does that connection look like? Right?
Yeah.
If that's a negative connection, then and I feel shit after the phone call. I'm sorry, but I can live without that.
Yeah.
Whatever's going on in people's lives, it's really not going to make any difference whether I know about it or not. If people wanted to come and say to me, look, I've got this issue, I need to talk about it. And maybe, you can give me some advice, or I need some advice, or I need just your opinion on it. That's different. I'm up for that. But if it's gossip, no, thank you.
Yeah.
But that's very clear.
Mm-hmm.
No, in my life, that's very, very clear. And for people around me, that's clear.
Yeah.
And we do, even me and Marilyn, we don't have gossip in our weekends, because we only got the weekend together.
Yeah.
So why would we want to talk about other people?
Yeah.
And why would we want to ignore our own life?
Mm-hmm.
But it's all a discipline, it's all a conscious discipline,
Yeah. Yeah. There's something going on now in my life that I'm like, me and my partner are talking about it way too much. And we both know we're talking about it way too much. And it's just like, and we keep saying, why are we still talking about this? But we're losing minutes of our life, like on this subject that is it's short term, and it's just so
But at some point you could sit down, both of you, and say, right, how, what's this cost? What's the cost? What's the cost in our relationship? What's the cost in our life right now? Because at this point, this is the interesting one, right? At this point, and this is one of the reasons why we don't gossiping on our relationship, about our people, because we've got too much that we got to keep our own lives and on track with. We've got too much
Yeah.
responsibility for stuff, right? So if we're off gossiping about something that's of no value, then we're doing ourselves, that we're totally wasting time.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
your life at the minute, Ciara, there's loads of stuff that you want to move forward with. Why would you want to distract yourself back there? And what's the function?
Yeah.
What's the purpose? What's the function? What's the payoff? There's a
Yeah.
payoff for you and Brenda to keep on going back to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's
Yeah,
all
that's
about being
on
conscious.
my notes here, it's a time and energy waster, and it's just like
Totally.
you can find yourself in a hole that you're like, oh, how did we even get here? Like, it's so pointless, because we're literally just running around in circles with it.
So then it's like let go.
Yeah.
And get your focus on somewhere else of value, or you're going to get the results you need for your life, But it's all about being conscious, it's all about being really present.
Yeah.
And that takes a discipline for sure.
Yeah.
But you see, if you're on my end and you see the damage and you see the amount of people that suffer from all of that, that's a bigger wake up call than you think.
Yeah.
It's like then you're not interested so much on it. Where I think my work gives me access to not be more than it would, I mean wanting to,
For sure. Interesting.
Yes.
So what do we say to all the people gossiping? Stay conscious, stay aware,
stay present, and just figure out why would you be, what's the purpose? What's the function? What function does this give me right now? What's the cost? What's it costing me? What's the payoff?
Yeah.
And
then so I can hear now some people, well, I'm just worried about my friends. I'm going to go to this friend and discuss it.
Yeah.
Like what's that then? Yeah.
Right? So what's if I'm concerned about you, right?
Mm-hmm.
I need to come and talk to you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then I have to ask myself, why aren't I going to talk to Ciara direct? Now, this is a good one. This is a good example. I am really close with you, and I'm really close with Gemma.
Yeah.
Do I ever talk to you about Gemma?
No.
Do I ever? You have to ask Gemma. Do I ever talk to you about Ciara? She can't say no, right? Because that would be ridiculous.
So yeah, then you'd be like a third sister and not like a.
I've been the family. I've been
and
the
then
family.
Not a healthy friendship or relationship.
Relationship, right? We're in a relationship. Well, why would I want to talk to Gemma about you? Well, what's the point? Like,
yeah.
But that's a conscious decision as well, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But also, yous are very, very clear where the boundaries are, because you don't talk to me about Gemma.
No.
Because somewhere that's an unspoken boundary.
Yeah.
And absolutely, Gemma does not talk to me about you.
Yeah.
So that's a really beautiful example of boundaries, really sort of safety.
Yeah.
And trust.
Yeah.
And that's the only relationship I want with people.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
then, sometimes if something's going on, like, I'll come to you and you'll always bring it back to me if I try and go somewhere else with it. If I try and go to another person with it.
Yeah, but you're also very, very, very good and very clear. This is about me, right? Because you've done the training. I've never heard you want to come and bitch about that.
Because if I was coming like that, it'd be coming to gossip. And then obviously I know there's no space. The energy's gone. I don't have the energy there with you to gossip because you don't.
There's no permission, right?
There's no permission.
Yeah, I don't give myself that.
Yeah, and then in that case, you honor yourself, and then you also hold me to account.
I honor you, and I also honor you.
And you honor me, because I don't get that then. So it's like, maybe that's something very interesting to look at in terms of people who are listening, their relationships, hold each other like we do to account.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, like you said, we can all go unconscious and just find ourselves in this hole. So me and Brenda will have to do that now, like what you said. Don't give each other, you can hold space for somebody, but don't hold the wrong kind of space.
Yeah, not to do damage to the thing is, if you're continuing just looking at stuff and complaining all the time, sure, what's the point? So and everyone does it, Ciara,
Mm-hmm.
And it's not saying me and Marion doesn't do it, right? But when we catch ourselves doing it, we pull it back really quick.
Pull it back,
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like we're not striving for perfection here. It's just more so becoming aware and conscious of what's going
we're
on.
no different to anyone else, right?
Yeah.
Because I see people really, really like shocked when I say, oh no, I feel this, or I get pissed off, or I will get pissed off and I will want to revenge and all that. And they're like, but you're a therapist. No, sorry, but I'm a human being, and I'm really, really happy to admit my humanity. And if people are not admitting their humanity, you have to really be careful and you have a problem, because that's the ego you're working with then.
Mm-hmm.
Cool, thank you. I just didn't realize the relationship that we had, me, you, and Gemma, inside of this. I know the relationship we have, but not inside the gossiping one.
No,
It's so
very
defined.
great.
It's so
Good.
clear. It's so clean, which is really
So
beautiful.
clean.
Yeah,
love it. Love it.
Yeah,
it's kind of when it's like when you define it, then you're like, oh wow,
yeah, it's really special, right?
Special for sure. Yeah.
Cool,
Amazing.
Ciara. Thank you, my love. Right, until our next podcast, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for listening. And please, if it's something that you've suffered from, or just remember the next time you're doing this stuff to someone else, that actually you're doing it to yourself. That's the issue.
All right.
Okay, take care. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Bye.
for listening. Bye-bye. I spend my life researching and teaching people how to live a powerful life. I am a believer. I stand for the transformation of humanity. I have found my purpose. My name is Gabrielle McGee, and I am the Rebellious therapist.